Okay, we are going to take notes on the element of art, color. So, a lot of you have this on one page in your sketchbook, the elements of art. I just have you guys rewrite it every time I introduce a new one. So, we are going to talk about color today, but again, the elements of art are line, shape, form, value, texture, space, and color. When we talk about color, we talk about three different properties of color. The first one is hue. Hue is just the name of a color. Next, we talk about value, which is how light or dark a color is. And lastly, we talk about the intensity. Which is how bright or dull could also be known as how strong or weak a color is. So, hue is just the name of a color. That's easy. Value, we've already talked about. Value is the lights and the darks. You guys practiced your intensity scales with tints and tones and shades. What is a light value called? You remember? It starts with the T, tint. What is a dark value called? A shade. You guys are so shy and quiet. And what is a tone? A color plus gray. Good job. So those are your values. With intensity, it's a little bit different. It's not how light or dark a color is, it's how bright or dull a color is. So thinking about your tones, you have purple. Or if you mix purple with a little bit of yellow or gray, it's going to start turning like a brownish color. It becomes more dull. So it's either strong, bright purple, or it's weak. It's like a grayish purple. Okay? Next, we're going to talk about color harmonies. That's what we're going to focus on today. Color harmonies. And color harmonies are just groups of color that look good together. So we're going to write definition here. groups of colors that are visually pleasing. So they are nice to look at. They look good together. I'm just kind of going back over the terms with my big Sharpie marker just to make things pop out. Give it a little bit of variety so certain words stand out from each other. It's a very easy way to organize your notes. The most important things should stand out. It doesn't just look like all words everywhere. Okay, and then since you guys have your water cup, make sure there's no water on the bottom of it. And I want you to draw a circle right in the middle. And we're gonna put a bunch of stuff down here too, so leave some room. I'm gonna use my pencil so I can erase if I need to. And we're gonna draw a little color wheel here. I didn't trace that very well. Good enough. And then we need to make 12 sections, so I'm just going to draw a line in the middle. And then in the middle horizontally as well. I'll go a little bit slower for you guys. Now, I need to break each section into 3. So this is how I do it. Everyone look up here. This one section here, I try to figure out how there's 3 equal sections. So I just kind of just use my eyes and guess. Those 3 sections kind of look similar. And then 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to connect those going right through the center. And I'm going to do the same thing with these 2 other quarters. I'm going to split them into 3 sections. So they don't have to be perfect. Just go right through the middle. And then count. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Once you have your 12 sections, then you can go ahead and trace it with a marker. And then I don't like to keep my pencil on there because I think it looks messy, so then I'm just using my pencil to erase all those pencil marks. And then we're gonna start coloring in our color wheel. And I'm gonna start on this top half, and I'm gonna start with yellow. So we are gonna use some of our marker techniques, but for now we're just gonna be doing regular yellow with the regular marker technique. And then we're going to skip one and we're going to do orange. Because we need to leave a space for our yellow orange in between. And then we're going to skip a space and do red and leave a space for our red orange color. And then I'm going to use my paper plate, and instead of mixing these colors on my paper, I'm actually going to mix them on my plate first. So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow, I'm going to color it on my plate, and then I already have some orange there, so I'm just going to use that. Get my paintbrush wet. And I'm going to take some yellow, take a little bit of orange, and just mix that right on my paint palette, which is your paper plate. When you think you have a nice yellow-orange color, go ahead and paint it into that section in between your yellow and orange. I can even take some of that orange and put some more in that section from my orange section. And I'm going to wash my brush, add a little red marker to my paint palette, a little bit more orange, and I'm going to mix those on my paper plate and use that new color to paint in my red-orange space. And we're just going to do that all the way around our color wheel. So the color that comes after red is violet. And just make sure you leave a white space in between each color so you can mix your tertiary colors. Now I can continue to add color to my paint palette and mix my colors to get my tertiary colors. So I'm mixing my primary yellow with secondary green to get my tertiary color, which is yellow green. Got a little too much water, so I'm just adding some water to my paper towel. You can actually soak up some water with a dry brush as well. And I'm gonna add some yellow marker on top of my wet section here, just because I don't like how green it looks, so I'm adding a little bit more yellow. I'm gonna let that dry and maybe paint some more on top of it, just because I don't love how light it is, and that's because I had a lot of water. But I'm just gonna let that dry, and I'm gonna go ahead and mix up my blue-green. I need to add some blue to my palette, a little bit more green, and mix those right onto my palette until you get the color that you like. It's a pretty good blue-green, nice and dark. I've got a lot of water on my brush, so I'm just gonna get some off by applying it to the paper towel. So some of my intermediate colors are really light because of how much water I'm using, so I'm just gonna let that dry, and I can always go add more paint or more color on top of it to saturate it and make it more intense later. Okay, and then lastly I have my blue violet. Make sure my brush is clean. I took off most of the water out of my paintbrush because I want my colors to be more intense. So I'm using less water and more marker. That way my colors are a lot brighter. Notice I'm using the side of the marker instead of the very tip, so I can apply more pigment to the palette. Oops. I need purple and red. Make sure your paintbrush is clean. The less water you use, the more intense your colors will be. I'm going to try one more time to make a little bit darker yellow-green. So I'm using less water this time, trying to create a brighter pigment, and just painting a second layer in my yellow-green section. So the first type of color harmony we talk about is color temperature. So warm colors and cool colors. If you split the color wheel in half, you have your yellows and your oranges and your reds. Those are going to be your warm colors. So your warm colors are going to go from yellow all the way over to red, violet. Warm colors are also known as active colors. My colors, or my words kind of ran together. My letters kind of ran together there. Okay, and then from our yellow-green all the way over to violet, those are going to be our cool colors. Cool colors are also known as passive. I'm going to go ahead and start setting up the bottom part of our page for the rest of our notes. If you run out of room, just go ahead and rip out a different piece of paper if this is still wet, and we can always combine everything later. So we have 4 more color harmonies we're going to go over. We're going to do analogous, monochromatic, and then we're going to draw some boxes to show some examples. We're also going to do complementary, and lastly, split complementary. Once you guys are done with your warm and cool colors, go ahead and start setting up the bottom part of your notes. Sorry, you couldn't see my paper. All right, just like that. I'll give you guys some time to set that up. And then we will have to finish this tomorrow because we only have about 9 minutes left.